Sup nerds, here's my pre-release winning deck profile. Starting off with our Tamas, we only pulled 4, so that's how many we played. We played 1 Hopmon. This is actually the only one where the inheritable actually came up. Opponent's turn while your opponent has Digimon, this Digimon gains reboot. This is actually mad trash awful because your opponent can be pushing out a raising and then you would miss the unsuspend opportunity. You would have reboot at that point in their turn, but you would not unsuspend. But this is actually the only one that came up. I also pulled a Capurimon and a BBmon and a Penamon. The only thing that these things allowed me to do was Evo for 0 into the respective rookies for these decks, which I will say is valuable. It saved me 1 memory when it did come up, but that's all these cards did. And that is it, just 4 of those. We pulled 1 Candlemon and 1 Ghostmon from the Necromon archetype, which was pretty cool. Candlemon has retail, which is nice if your opponent leaves something big suspended. You can just pop into it. And then inheritables on deletion by trashing 1 card in your hand, delete one of your opponent's level 4 or lower Digimon. That's actually really strong if you have the Necromon combo, which, spoilers, we actually did pull a Necro in our pre-release pack. And then Ghostmon, on play reveal the top 3 cards of your deck, add a Ghost trait card and 1 Liberator trait among them to the hand, turn the rest to the bottom of the deck, then on deletion gain 1 memory. A lot of the cards in this set are randomly Liberator, so this is actually a pretty solid search card. And then we pulled 1 Monodramon. I'm not even going to read the on play, it never came up. I don't even think I actually played this guy because I knew I didn't have like hardly any targets for it. The all turns plus 1000 though is actually pretty strong. I liked that. Crabmon X, the on play is okay. One of your Digimon can't be deleted in battle until the end of your opponent's turn. Never came up for me. The when attacking inheritable, once per turn if you have 7 or fewer cards in your hand, draw 1. I don't believe that ever happened for me. Anytime I had this in a stack, I had 8 or more cards in hand, but still like a decent effect. Pulled 1 Vmon. Your turn when any of your purple Digimon are played, this Digimon may digivolve into a Digimon card with the free trait in the hand with the Evo cost reduced by 1. That was a potential combo. I did pull an XV and a Pyodramon, however, never came up. I would have had to have all 3 in my hand in order to like wombo combo my opponent. And then the inheritable is your turn plus 2k, which is actually pretty good. Then we had a Dracomon. Start your main phase by trashing 1 card in your hand with Dracomon or Xmon and its text, draw 1 and gain 1. I think this came up once, maybe. Actually, yeah, I probably didn't even have the card in my hand. I did pull several cards that would have that text, but I don't think it ever came up. The inheritable plus 2k though, really solid. Then we pulled 1 Huckmon. I don't have any other cards besides I think 1 Savior Huck to trigger the start of main, so I'm not even going to read that. It never came up. And the inheritable, your turn, all of your Digimon get plus 1000 DP, actually pretty solid. And here are the random 1 to Evo Digimon that actually got to Evo for free occasionally. Dorumon, I never on-played this, I don't think, because I have like barely any targets for it, so I'm not going to read it. The inheritable opponent's turn plus 2k, it's alright. It makes it a little harder for your opponent to swing over your stuff if you leave it suspended, but ideally you would want stuff to be bigger on your turn for a pre-release format. Then we pulled 1 Ryudomon. The your turn effect never came up. The inheritable, your turn, this Digimon gets 2000 DP though, also really good for pre-release. Then we pulled 1 Espimon. Your turn, this Digimon would digivolve into a cyborg or machine trait, reduce the Evo cost by 1. That actually did come up, so I got to reduce cost like once or twice, I think. And the all turns plus 1000 DP is really good. Then we pulled 1 Falcomon. So far, all 4 of these can Evo on top of one of our Tamas for 0. When this Digimon would digivolve into a Digimon card with the Excel trait, reduce the Evo cost by 1. Never came up. The Piercing inheritable actually did come up. Sometimes it wasn't to my benefit, but it's actually not a bad thing to have. And then we did pull 1 Pulsemon. I don't believe this ever came up. It could potentially, so I guess I'll read it. Your turn with Digimon would digivolve into a Digimon card with Pulsemon in its text or the Seeker's trait, reduce the Evo cost by 1. There are several Seeker's cards in this set where you could potentially reduce the Evo cost. And then inheritables, all turns, once per turn when Digimon deletes an opponent's Digimon in battle, gain 1 memory. That's actually really, really strong. I don't think it came up very often, but I think it's just because I never really saw him. And that is it. We were playing 12 rookies. I did pull a few more than 12, but 12 is normally my standard if I do pull that many for a pre-release, since you're only playing a 40 card deck. On for our 4s, 1 Blintmon. On play, when digivolving, one of your opponent's Digimon can't attack players until the end of their turn. The inheritable is reboot. Both of these effects are really good. You can keep your opponent from randomly killing you. Also, yeah, just reboot, just making it that much harder for your opponent to out your stuff is really good. 1 XV. This is removal, which is really strong in pre-release. On play or when digivolving, delete one of your opponent's 3000 DP or less Digimon. Then if it's your turn, you can DNA into a free trait or Imperial Dramon. Unfortunately, Unfortunately, I did pull Pyodramon like I said, but I never got the combo off. The inheritable plus 2k on your turn though is really good. Then we have Hover Espimon, there we go. When digivolving, flip your opponent's top face down security card face up. That came up once. Every other time this got evoed and raising. And then end of attack once per turn, draw 1. That never came up. I was never able to swing with him safely. Inheritable all turns plus 1000 DP though is the reason why he was in the deck. That's a really good effect. Then we have Diatramon. On play or when digivolving, suspend one of your opponent's Digimon, and the inheritable is Piercing. The Piercing inheritable, I believe, came up. The suspension actually, I believe, came up as well. It allowed me to swing over one of my opponent's Digimon, which is cool. Leomon. On play or when digivolving, one of your opponent's Digimon gets minus 3000 DP for the turn. Very good removal. And the inheritable is Barrier, which is amazing. I got that on one of my big stacks, and I think that big stack rode out the rest of the game to victory, which is really cool. One Punkmon. On player when digivolving, trash one card in your hand, then until the end of your opponent's turn, one of your Digimon gains blocker and retowel. Really good effect for pre-release. This is removal and also discourages your opponent from attacking you. And the inheritable is really good as well. Your turn plus 2k. Then we pulled one Cordramon. Has jamming. That came up, I believe, one time. I didn't see this guy very often, but I did swing with him with jamming once or twice. And then your turn, when any of your green Digimon with Dracomon or Examon and their texts are played, this never came up, so I'm not even going to read it. The inheritable, your turn plus 2k, also really good. And then we pulled a Greymon, has rush, and then the only thing that actually mattered on this card was the reboot inheritable, which, like I said, is really good for pre-release. That's the whole reason it was in the deck. And you can randomly, because this guy has rush, if your opponent is trying to clear your board to keep you from lethaling them, if they have like 0 security, no way to defend themselves, a lot of times in pre-release they'll hand you a bunch of memory in order to do that, just because like it'll keep them from dying from stuff you have on board. And if they give you 5 or more, if you have a Digimon with rush or like whatever, you just hard play it and swing for game. That has come up in pre-releases in the past, so that's one of the reasons why he was in the deck. It didn't come up in my pre-release though. Then one Seadramon X. The on player when digivolving is removal as well, which is one of the reasons why he's in the deck. He bot decks a level 3 or lower. The rest of the effect is not going to happen. And then the inheritable when attacking once per turn, if you have 7 or fewer cards in hand, draw 1. Like I said, that never came up. Anytime I saw this inheritable, I had 8 or more cards in hand. Then we pulled one Bulkmon. On player when digivolving, if you have 3 or more security cards, you may add your top security card to the hand. Then if you have 2 or fewer, recover +1. This came up once or twice. I believe I won a game one time because I was able to recover to 1 security and keep my opponent from killing me, and then I killed them on my next turn. That was the reason why he was in the deck. Heritable is also good though. All turns once per turn, when Digimon deletes your opponent's Digimon in battle, gain 1 memory. And that is it. We just played 10 champions. That is normally the ratio I like to play in pre-releases. It's 12, 10, and then normally the ultimates I'll kind of play around with depending on what I pulled. On to the ultimates. 2 Cyberdramon. This guy is pretty sick. He also has rush, so in that scenario where your opponent has to give you a bunch of memory to keep you from killing them, you can just hard play this guy, assuming they gave you 7 or more. Collision, which is pretty sick. Obviously you can't kill them in that scenario because you're giving them blocker and force them to block, but still something to keep in mind. The when attacking never came up, so I'm not even going to read that. I didn't play any option cards that would be in my battle area. And then end of your turn, if your opponent has an unsuspended Digimon, this Digimon attacks a player. I don't believe this ever came up. However, this was potential removal for small things. Like if your opponent has something 8k or lower, you can just hard play this guy for 7, and then he attacks with rush and collision and they're forced to block, so it's like pseudo removal, which is pretty nice. And inheritable is collision, which is also really strong. It is a pseudo removal, assuming your opponent doesn't have an ace play set up. And then we pulled 2 Wingdramons, also removal. One of the main reasons why he's in the deck, but he's also just a really good card for pre-release. On player or when digivolving, delete a 6k or lower, really good. And then the all turns never came up because I did not pull an Examon. Security attack +1 inheritable though came up several times, really strong for pre-release. And then we also got 2 Solugramons. On player when digivolving, by trashing 1 card in your hand for the turn, when a Digimon gains raid and gets 3000 DP. The all turns is not going to come up, so I'm not going to read that. And the your turn effect also will not come up, or didn't come up, I should say. I guess I will read that one though, because that one could come up potentially in your decks. Your turn, the Digimon with the SOC or Seeker's trait doesn't activate security effects on option cards at check. There are a few Seekers Megas / SOC Megas. I only pulled 1, I believe, and that scenario just never came up. But the raid +3k only came up 1 time, but it straight up won me the game. That was one of the reasons why he was in the deck. That, and he discards cards. And like I said, I did pull Necromon, and I wanted to be able to put the targets to play back in my trash at will. That's why I played several of the cards that discard cards. Speaking of, 1 Phantomon has Execute, which is at the end of your turn. This Digimon may attack. At the end of that attack, delete this Digimon. Your opponent's unsuspended Digimon can also be attacked with this effect. This doesn't bypass cast Summoning Sickness, but it is really cool removal. And then on deletion, you may play 1 level 4 or lower Digimon card with the Ghost trait from your trash without paying the cost. So you'd want to be able to put those guys in your trash at will. That's why I played a bunch of cards at discard cards. And then Inheritable is on deletion. Same thing. You can play a level 4 or lower Digimon card with the Ghost trait from here without paying the cost. Really cool to be able to float into more bodies. Then we also pulled a Metal Phantomon. This guy evos on top of Phantomon for 1. He has blocker, and then on player when digivolving but deleting one of your Digimon, delete one of your opponent's level 5 or lower Digimon. I don't believe that ever came up to where I did it, but that was one of the reasons why I put him in the deck, in addition to him to being a ghost. And then the Inheritables on deletion, devo one of your opponent's Digimon. I don't think this ever came up, however, that is a pretty solid effect, because you can potentially like get access to overflow if your opponent has an ace at the top of their stack or something like that. And then we did pull a Pyodramon, like I said. On player when digivolving for the turn, when a Digimon gains piercing, gets 4000 DP, then this Digimon may attack. It's odd that the way he is worded is he attacks, but you can give anybody 4000 DP and piercing. That makes him slightly worse, but still an okay effect. Unfortunately, I don't think that ever came up, but the security attack +1 inheritable is definitely really good for pre-release. Also, something to keep in mind is DNAs that are just color specific for pre-releases. You can ignore that because it's a pre-release. I didn't actually ever DNA into him, but that is one of the reasons why I put him in the deck, is because he's potentially just like an extra swing. You can just DNA 2 level 4s into him for free. Then we pulled 1 Savior Huck. This is removal, which is also really good. On player when digivolving, delete a 5k or lower. I'm not going to read the rest of the effect because it doesn't do anything, and the inheritable also isn't going to do anything. Didn't pull any Royal Knights. This guy actually won me a game. My opponent had a Invisimon on the field, or an Invisimon on the field, and a 5k or lower. I had 0 security and they had 0 security. I hard played this and deleted their 5k or lower. They swung and then I aced them and killed their body, and then I killed them on my next turn. Pretty solid card. And then we did pull 1 Loudmon. On player when digivolving, trash 2 cards in your hand. Then for the turn, one of your Digimon gains raid and piercing and gets plus 4k. Then the inheritable is your turn while you have 4 or fewer cards in your hand. All of your Digimon with the Dark Dragon or Evil Dragon trait gain security attack +1. That could have come up in my deck, however, it never did. I always had at least 5 cards in my hand whenever this was in my inheritable stack. That is it. I did play 11 5s, which is more than the champions I played. However, some of these I considered to be like option-like effects where I could just hard play them, like the Savior and the double Wingdramon. Those are basically just options that pop a body and then make your opponent deal with a level 5. But yeah, pretty solid. And then onto our megas. We did pull 1 Justimon Ace. I evoed into this guy 2 times. However, the 2 times I did evo into him, he straight up won me the game. So definitely a solid inclusion. On player when digivolving until the end of your opponent's turn, the Digimon gains blocker and isn't affected by your opponent's effects. That's pretty cool. Then when digivolving / when attacking once per turn, by trashing 1 option card in the battle area, this Digimon unsuspends. That effect came up once. However, it did win me the game. I gave this guy raid. On 1 turn, I just evoed into him just to have blocker to pass turn and my opponent couldn't kill me, and then I just won the match. And the other game that I won by his effect is my opponent had a Zephygamon on the field, and I evoed into the soul that gives me raid and DP, and then I evoed into him, and then I swung into his Zephyga and trashed an option card on his side of the field to unsuspend, killed it, gained access to Ace Overflow, swung into security, and then poked his security with something else, and then he scooped on his next turn. Then we pulled 1 Heavy Metal Ace. On player when digivolving, trash cards in your hand until you have 4. Then play 1 8000 DP or lower Digimon from your trash. For each card this effect trash, remove 2000 from this effect's DP maximum. Unfortunately, it was always 4 more cards when I evoed into this guy because it was pretty late whenever I saw him or evoed into him. So I never got to play anything for free off his effect. However, if you see this guy early and you have trash set up, you could potentially like play him or evo into him and play something else and just have like a big board. Never came up. All turns, all of your Dark Dragon, Evil Dragon trait Digimon gain rush and blocker and get 2000 DP. So this guy can potentially just steal games. He's basically just a 7-drop that has rush. You can swing. I went into him a few times to just have a big 14k blocker. One of those times did win me the match. So definitely a solid inclusion. It sucks that both of these guys don't have removal, but them being blocker actually came up a lot, so not going to complain about those. Speaking of removal, we did pull 1 Imperiodramon Dragon Mode Ace. Keep in mind you can DNA into this guy with 2 level 5s of any color on your turn because of pre-release rules. However, you cannot blast DNA into this guy without specifically Pyodramon and Dino Beamon. One of those in the field and one of those in your hand, on which we did not pull a Dino, so we could not do that. On player when digivolving, delete one of your opponent's Digimon with 11,000 DP or less. Really good good effect. Just a 7-drop option card that just pops a dude. That came up a few times where I just dropped him and just deleted one of their guys and kept it moving. However, after that, he's just a 4 overflow waiting to happen. But yeah, still a good card. Then we pulled 1 Slayer. This guy put in a lot of work. He has piercing, and then on play or when digivolving, trash any 3 sources of one of your opponent's Digimon, then delete one of their Digimon with no sources. That's pretty cool. He's just removal on a body, which is really nice. And then all turns once per turn, when your opponent's security stack is removed from one of Digimon with Dracomon or Examon and its text may unsuspend. That's Homeboy right here. And because he has piercing, you can swing over your opponent's Digimon, pierce, and then unsuspend, and then swing again. Really good effect. I'm not going to read the inheritable because I do not pull any level 7s, but really good card. And then we also pulled a Breakdramon, his counterpart, Blocker, which actually came up. And then on player, when digivolving, suspend 2 of your opponent's Digimon or Tamers, then one of Digimon may attack. That came up quite a bit because he functionally has Blitz. You can Evo end him, suspend stuff, and then run something over. And then the all turns is even better than the Slayer. Once per turn, when any of your Digimon with Dracomon or Examon in their text, delete your opponent's Digimon in battle, delete one of their suspended Digimon or Tamers. That came up several times. The fact that it's all turns and he has Blocker also made it come up more often. But you can just like clear your opponent's board by just going into this guy, suspending everything, swinging over something, deleting the other thing. Really good card. I was really happy to pull both of these. All turns never came up because we don't have any level 7s. And then, like I said, we did pull a Necromon. It does have security attack +1 and execute. And then on player, when digivolving, delete one of your opponent's Digimon at the lowest level. That's really good. Removal on a security attack +1 body that also floats. On play or on deletion, you may play 1 level 5 or lower Digimon card with the Ghost Rate from your trash without paying the cost. Really good. I actually full Necro comboed somebody. I believe it was round 1. I evoed into him, popped somebody, executed into the other body, and then deleted him, and then played, I trashed a card, delete something else, and then I played the level 5 and a rookie on the field to pass turn, and then he scooped on his next turn. Really good card. And then we did pull a Kazuchimon. This guy is one of the secret traits, level 6s. Unfortunately, he just never came up. I didn't see him very often. However, I put him in because of his Fortitude effect, because I figured a floating level 6 would be pretty solid, much to the reason why I put Necromon in the deck. And then when digivolving, suspend one of your opponent's Digimon or Tamers, then one of their Digimon or Tamers can't unsuspend until the end of their turn. And then the all turns never came up, and the inheritable never came up. I don't regret putting this guy in the deck. I think Fortitude's pretty strong in a pre-release format. I never saw him very much. But that is it. We had 7 megas in our deck. That is it for the list. I ended up going 3-0 during my pre-release, and it ended after 3 rounds because there was a draw at the other undefeated table. We take those, came in first, won like 3 of the winner Yukis, several other things, and then I actually got 2 packs for just participating, and we got those after the tournament was over and pulled one of these bad boys out of the 2 packs, which is pretty nice. But hopefully you guys did well in your pre-releases if you already had them. But if you haven't had them yet, good luck with your pulls and your RNG. But if you guys have already had your pre-releases, how'd you do in them? But I appreciate you guys stopping by. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy seeing this kind of content. Want to come back for more. But until next time, see ya.